Welcome back to The Book Stop. I'm so excited to talk about today's episode. Fair warning moving forward, this podcast does contain spoilers as we go over major events within the novels. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on Apple, Spotify, and Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Alright, welcome back, guys. We're back with Sabrina, and guess what? We're alive!
Woo, we made it!
We survived! If you didn't know, me and Sabrina both had COVID. It is not fun. No. Wear your masks. It's a nightmare. But yeah, we're doing good. We're healthy. We're feeling great. And we're ready to start this next episode. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right. What book did I bring today? This is the first time I brought a book to the episode. But you're still going to play the game. Don't worry.
Okay.
So the book that I brought is the All for the Game series. The first one that we're going to talk about today is the Foxhole Court. So a little bit about the author. Her name is Nora Sakavic, and honestly, there is not very much you can find online about her. She does have like a Tumblr page where she kind of talks about the book a little bit, but she has there's no promotion for this book. She wrote an article and she was like, mostly she just had a fear of being like promoted, I guess. Like, she didn't really want to get like famous or anything.
Right.
So like even her friends didn't even know that she wrote this book until it started to like pick up Tumblr.
I would be so mad.
Right.
You're like, you wrote a book? Why didn't you tell me?
I want to read it. But yeah, she was just like, she said in the article like she wrote the book for herself, and it's not really made for other people. So, and me for one, this is my absolute favorite book, and I'm so happy that she did. This book I've read at least probably a dozen times, and every single time it just makes me so happy, and I just love it so much. So the Foxhole Court is kind of, I guess the best way to kind of summarize it is like a sporty thriller romance mafia type deal.
Wow.
But, yeah, it's four corners.
That's a lot of words.
But before we get into it, before we talk too much about it, I want you to go ahead and summarize it in 30 seconds or less. But the twist today is you have to tell one truth and two lies. All right, so whenever you're ready.
All right, so this book is pretty crazy. So it takes place in West Virginia, I believe. It's at this school. The main character just like really hates the sport, honestly. He doesn't really want to play it, but feels like he has to. And it's just him like meeting his team, getting to know them, and then you get to know kind of his backstory a little bit, where he came from, what he's been through, and him kind of adjusting to being on the team and playing the sport is, I think, like the main synopsis of this first book.
All right, yeah, I always thought that was pretty good. I have to say, in the first book, it's just mostly like plot development, like trying to set you up for the rest of the series. It's more in like the second and third book that you really dive in and you see like the skeleton of it. So
right. It's like, here's all the characters, here's the sport they're playing, here's what school they go to.
Yeah. Here's
a little bit about Neil, who's the main character, and then
everyone else,
you kind of get like their name and a little bit about them. And...
yeah, it's like dipping your toe into the lake a little before you jump in. Yeah. So I'm gonna summarize this book for anybody that hasn't read it yet. So Neil Josten is the newest addition to the Palmetto State University XC team. He's short, fast, plus he's got tons of potential. But he's the runaway son of a murderous crime lord known as the Butcher. Signing a contract with the PSU Foxes is the last thing he should do. The team is high profile and his face doesn't need to be broadcast across the nation, but he's tired of running. If he just keeps his life a lie, the truth will never have time to get him killed. He didn't realize how much of his past still lingers with him.
First of all, the lies were, I don't know where West Virginia came from. It's in Pennsylvania, right?
I thought it was in
South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. Yeah. Forget if it's South or North Carolina. I'm pretty sure it's South Carolina.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I know where he first was. I remember he was in Arizona, but that's it. And they talk about so many other places, too, in it. Yeah. And then also, he loves the sport. He does not hate it.
That actually brings me to my first point. So, I would say that Neil is actually addicted to the sport. I feel like it's the only thing really keeping him alive at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the only real thing he's got left, so he kind of just holds on to it, and I feel like the way he visualizes it is more of like, I have to play this game, not that he wants to, like, because otherwise he has nothing left.
Yeah. So, a little backstory on him. So, Neil is on the run. He had just recently lost his mother, who was on the run with him. They stole $250,000 from his dad, who is a crime lord. Just happened to be a crime lord, known as the Butcher. And you don't really see a lot of the Butcher in this book, but yeah, his dad is very abusive, obviously, to Neil. Neil's body is covered in scars. And yeah, so Neil's on the run right now. He's alone for the first time in his life, so he's trying to make all of these decisions that he knows he should be making, but in his head, he's like, I'm tired of running. I want to just exist now. He said in the book, his way of surviving isn't living, and he just wants to belong somewhere.
Right. So, I mean, he's so used to being on the run. He's been on the run for a long time. He's only 18, even though he says he's 19 for some reason, but he's only 18, so I can't imagine like having that kind of childhood and growing up in that, and then you're on the run for years. Obviously he just wants to feel like he belongs somewhere and to feel safe somewhere, which is a huge thing for him, that he doesn't feel safe anywhere he is.
Right.
Because he always thinks that someone's after him, which they could be.
Exactly, yeah. The first time I read it, I was like, this kid doesn't make any sense. Like, he just wants to play a sport, but yet, his life is on the line. But rereading this time around, I'm like, the more I look at it, the more it just seems like this is kind of an addiction to him. That was very interesting. I like being able to kind of read more into the stuff that Nora was writing. So
right. It is kind of interesting to see, too, because most of the people on the team have some sort of addiction, but it's like a little ironic that Neil's addiction that he has is the sport, Exy. Yeah. That's a weird thing to see everyone, like, battling those addictions, but, I mean, he embraces it because it's not a bad addiction for him.
Right. I kind of want to jump into the Foxes. So, he does sign a contract with Palmetto State. They are the Foxes, and they are kind of the lowest ranking team in this sport called Exy. So, Exy is literally a sport that Nora made up, and it is... the best way I can describe it, it is literally lacrosse in an ice hockey arena where it has like the big walls, but this one has a roof over it, and it just has a ton more violence. Like, the violence is like anything goes pretty much. Like, they give the red cards and stuff, but pretty much anything goes.
It's essentially lacrosse and hockey, because hockey can be very violent, and it's, in the same kind of like arena, I guess, but definitely some of the things that they were doing on the court, I was like, how is this legal?
Yeah. So the Foxes themselves, so the coach, his name is David Wymack. He takes, I guess you would say, I wouldn't say misfits, people that come from broken homes, really bad lives, and he offers them a second chance, pretty much. And the quote says he offers them a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, a fifth chance, as many as the time as they need to get their lives right.
Yeah, and he says, like, as long as I give you one more chance than anyone else gave you, which I thought is awesome. He's such a cool character to see. He, like, really cares about all of these kids, but the way he shows it is just super funny. But they're just, like, they're used to it. It kind of is, like, it helps them.
I feel like a lot of them, if you were to come at them with, like, a gentle approach, some of them would turn away from that, because they're like, we don't need your pity type deal.
Yeah, he's been doing it for years too, so I think he's kind of nailed his approach to like how to deal with these. I don't know, I think misfits is kind of a good name for them. It's a team of misfits a little bit.
So let's jump into our favorite lines. I can go first if you want, or if you want to go first.
Either way, one of my favorites was the line you just said from Coach Wymack, but I have another one. So
okay, cool.
This one's a little bit long, so bear with me. But I thought it was a really cool glimpse into, like, Neil's mind. It's a group of people shouldered their way up to the bar counter at Neil's back, pushing him into Andrew. Andrew didn't budge beneath his weight. He was something solid to lean against, something violent and fierce and unmoving. Neil couldn't remember what it felt like to have someone hold him up. It was terrifying and liberating all at once. His life was out of control now. He was giving it to Andrew and hoping Andrew would keep it safe. And I think that's a really good glimpse into kind of both characters. To teach you a little bit more about Andrew is very violent and fierce and unpredictable, but he does protect people like very fiercely and uses that to his advantage. And Andrew does care a lot about people. He just doesn't show it like in a conventional way, I guess. And it kind of also shows for Neil, like, it teaches you a little bit more about his backstory, how he's never really felt safe or, like, secure, and he's kind of just trusting Andrew at this point to help him out because he has no other option, really.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, moving forward, we're going to have a lot of characters. I'm going to try to simplify it as easy as I can, but I apologize if it does get a little confusing. In the first book, you're going to kind of feel that way when you read it because this is a whole team of people. Even though they are the smallest team in
division,
the smallest team in their division, they do have a lot of characters. So to kind of summarize, Neil is our main character, and Andrew is, I would say, almost like secondary main character.
Yeah.
He's in it a lot. He's in it a lot more at the end, and he eventually becomes the love interest for Neil. Andrew is a very, very complicated character. I personally think, is probably one of the most developed characters in this whole story. He has a very harsh background. He has a lot of trauma in his past, and that you don't find that out until the second, third book. I think that's kind of interesting, though, because you get your opinion of Andrew in this first book, and you're like, wow, he's very dangerous, he's very destructive, he has one mindset, and that's pretty much to protect Kevin. And the rest of the books, you find out it's, he's loyal, and he is very compassionate for, like, the people around him and his family and stuff like that, so
they kind of just play him off as a jerk. But as the book goes, you kind of start to see behind that a little bit, and you kind of see a little more why. You don't really get to see his backstory yet, but you can tell that he's not being a jerk just because he's a jerk.
Yeah.
Towards the end more. Like, his first introduction, you're like, who does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
Or, like, what's wrong with him?
Honestly. It's even funnier because he's only 5 foot. On the dot.
Yeah, 5 foot on the dot.
On the dot. And this guy is literally could kill you with a glance. And it's so funny. That's probably the best thing about it.
Honestly, yeah. I love that he's 5 foot. And then you also have his twin brother, Aaron, who's also 5 foot.
Yeah.
So you just have these short little guys on the team that are just, like, scrappy. And you don't want to mess with mostly Andrew, but...
Yeah, mostly Andrew.
I still wouldn't mess with Aaron, because then Andrew will mess you up, probably.
Probably. Let's see how he's feeling that day.
Right.
Anything that involves Neil and Andrew, I love it.
Right.
So I'm not picky. So I have 2 quotes. The first one is, both of them are towards the end of the book, and one of the quotes is, "I'm willing to gamble with my life. I won't gamble with theirs. They don't deserve it." I like this quote because he doesn't really know the foxes that much. He's starting to learn about, the monsters, but he doesn't really know any of the other ones yet. Even this early on, he's starting to, like, kind of form this idea of them being someone that he can rely on. And that he thinking of other people than just himself and getting himself safe and getting himself to somewhere that he's going to survive. He's kind of putting other people before him.
Right. You kind of see him get comfortable with these people faster than you would almost expect from someone with his kind of background. But I feel like, he has nothing. He has no one. So for him to want to grasp on to people that he doesn't even know still and want to, like, protect them is, I feel like, normal. Because, I mean, everybody has that want to protect people they care about. But if you have no one, then you're going to find someone to care about. And I feel like you can I know he was there for a few months with some of the team members before, but even the new people, he automatically, when they show up, he's like, I'm part of this team, we're a family now. You can see him kind of developing that mindset where he's like, these people are my family because he has no one else.
Right. That's one of the reasons why this is my favorite book, is that I'm such a sucker for found families. It's like one of my favorite tropes, and it has a lot of my favorite tropes. It's got, found family. It's got short people with anger issues. It's got life or death situations. It's got LGBT people in here. It has enemies to lovers. Like, it has a lot of things that...
We all know you like angst.
Yeah, we love angst here.
Well, I don't know if you guys know, but I know that Jen really loves her some angst.
So my other quote was, this is right after Andrew kind of confirms that he's going to protect Neil for a year. He said, for a year I'll have your back. After that you'll have to figure something out. So the quote that Andrew says to Neil is, remember this feeling. This is the moment that you stop being the rabbit. And it's kind of saying, like, this is the moment where you finally become a fox. So this is the first time that Neil is hearing confirmation that he doesn't have to run anymore. And that he has someone there to protect him because, they want him around. And that they're not going to let anything happen to him. I just really like that line.
Yeah, and that is a really good, turn, because Andrew and his monsters, as they're called, his kind of squad, they spend the whole summer just tormenting Neil, and then you kind of see that twist where he's like, you can see them start to like him a little bit as it goes, but when he says he'll protect him, then he knows no one else on the team is going to mess with him either, so he's kind of feels included and is like, cool, I don't have to go anywhere. I finally can be a part of this team instead of them just pushing me around.
Right. And I think that's interesting because the way that Andrew kind of accepts Neil is that he finally starts telling him the truth about things. Mm-hmm. Like, he just wants him to be honest with him. He's, hiding all these secrets, and he doesn't want anyone to come in between him and his family. And he gauged Neil as, he called him a mole from a different team that we're going to talk about in a second. But so he wanted to make sure that Kevin, his brother, his cousin, everyone was safe. Mm-hmm. And so when Neil started to finally be honest and tell him what's going on, to a point, he still has to protect himself, but he starts being honest with him, and Andrew's like, okay, you in the squad now. Right.
Yeah, I mean, like Andrew says in there, I don't like being lied to. Mm-hmm. Like, just tell me the truth. And he tells him some stuff, and I mean, he kind of lies a little bit, but it's more just him protecting himself. Cause,
it's like an instinct.
Yeah, I mean, even for him, the amount that he gave away was a lot. Yeah. Especially being someone who has changed his identity so many times, and mm-hmm. he has dyed hair, he wears contacts, so people don't know who he is. So for him to give up that little bit of his past, I mean, he can kind of show who he is, so that scares him. So obviously he's not going to give up all the information right away, but...
Right. Let's jump into Kevin, Neil, and Rico, because I really want to talk about them. So Rico and Kevin are adopted siblings. So Kevin's mother and the coach of Edgar Allan, which Rico plays for, they created the game of Xe. So that's why Kevin is kind of... People say he's like the love child of Xe. He was born into it, he was raised on it, so he is pretty much like God tier of the Xe ladder, I guess.
I mean, and he eats, sleeps, breathes Xe. I mean, absolutely. He's their poster child, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rico is kind of right up there with him, but Kevin is better at it. When Kevin was on Edgar Allan's team,
they were like a duo, like partners. Yeah. That's what they really stood out as.
Yeah, they were never, ever, ever alone, like, without each other. And they have these tattoos on their face where Rico has a 1 and Kevin has a 2. Because in Rico's eye, he's always number 1. And that's why when Kevin started getting better than him, he broke his hand. And so that's why that ultimately made Kevin leave Edgar Allan and join the Foxes.
This is a pretty popular sport, too, like across the nation. Like, it's on, like, in the book they talk about it's played on ESPN, mm-hmm. and people really follow it. And when Rico broke Kevin's hand, everyone was told it was a skiing accident.
Yeah.
They thought, they were the best of friends. They were always together, the dynamic duo. So to kind of figure that out and see the why behind Kevin's switch, and I mean, the nation doesn't know about it. Their fans don't know that it was Rico's fault that, Kevin kind of left and went to the other team, because he obviously wasn't safe there if he just broke his hand.
Right. So when Kevin came to the team, he started as a coach, and then he eventually joined the team as a player. And Kevin and Andrew they have a very weird relationship where Andrew protects Kevin as if he was like his family. They become kind of their own little duo on the team. You don't see Kevin unless you see Andrew, and vice versa. They're never alone without each other. And so when Neil gets there, that's why he kind of freaks out and is like, I'm going to torture you until I figure out why you're here. Because he thinks that Neil's there to hurt Kevin, sent by Rico. So I think they just have a very interesting relationship altogether. They're not my favorite relationship, because yikes. But I think it's a very interesting structure because Kevin sees a lot of potential in Neil and thinks he's going to make court, which is like the best team. He pushes Neil so hard that Neil eventually just starts hating him, but he respects him, is the thing.
Yeah. He definitely respects, his expertise in the sport. And it is even weirder because, you find out Neil and Kevin used to know each other. They were friends when they were kids. And Neil remembers Kevin, but as far as we know, Kevin doesn't remember Neil. He has a different name now than he did then. Mm-hmm. His appearance is different. They haven't seen each other since then. So he kind of is like terrified when he first gets there that Kevin is going to remember him and tell everyone about his like true self.
His dad was going to find him and kill him, because if his dad finds him, he's going to kill him.
Right.
That is the end goal for Neil. Is in his mindset, he's going to get found one day and he's going to die.
Pretty much.
That kind of rolls into my next topic of how much Neil is kind of an idiot.
Neil is pretty dumb sometimes. But I mean, he's only an 18-year-old kid.
Okay, but he's kind of an idiot.
I know. It's like so hard to blame him because of what he's been through. And he's only 18, but also you're like, dude, what are you doing?
I mean, did he have to go that hard on the Kathy show? No.
He did, though.
No, he didn't.
But he did go that hard, and it was beautiful.
It was. We'll explain that in a second. But yeah, I just think, obviously for the book it needed to happen, but if I was in Neil's situation, his whole time he's pretty much talking about how much he wants to survive, and he joins this team that's broadcast nationwide on a team that Kevin's on, and that is facing Rico, that also knows him. And he does all these things that makes it just so difficult for himself, right. But at the same time, it really drives the plot, so...
Right, he's like, oh, I hope no one finds me while I'm here with these people who used to know me, and I'm walking around without my contacts, and I'm telling them the languages I speak. He's just giving so much away when he doesn't need to be.
Exactly. All in the first book, too. There's 2 more books, and, he's gonna eventually start being more and more honest, especially with Andrew, as they develop their relationship. But the languages is another thing I want to talk about. It's, in a writer's perspective, it's such an easy way to have characters communicate without other people knowing about it.
Exactly. It's kind of a little bit of a cop-out.
But
it is cool to kind of see that...
It makes sense for Neil, though.
Absolutely.
So Neil knows English, German, and French. And...
As far as we know. Who knows? He might know more.
Yeah. And Kevin can speak French, and so Kevin and Neil talk in French, and the monsters, which is Nikki, Andrew, Aaron, so those 3, they speak German. Neil knows German, so he's a little gossip queen. He can talk to everybody.
Exactly.
He's just got that
in front of everyone else, and they don't know what they're talking about. And at the beginning, kind of when the monsters were talking about him in German right in front of him, and he panics for a minute because he thought they were speaking to him. Mm-hmm. And they were like, how do they know that I know German? And that kind of shows his paranoia as well, is obviously he's gonna be a very paranoid person. His father's out to kill him.
Right.
Like, eventually he thinks it's gonna happen, but really they're just gossiping about him, so he can't hear. And then when he does kind of show to them that he can speak German, it's really funny, because I believe it was Nikki that was like, oh shoot, did we say anything bad about him while he was in the room? Yeah. Which they did, but
they did.
He obviously isn't gonna remember that, because Nikki's kind of dumb.
Yeah, Nikki is something else. Nikki is a gay man, and he
makes it everyone's problem.
Yeah, pretty
essentially.
Much.
He's a very, like, flirty person. Mm-hmm. He, like, tries to, you know, go after everyone, and I don't know if it's almost just to see their reaction more than it, like, he actually wants to be with them.
It should be, since he has a boyfriend that lives in Germany. But yeah, so Nikki is Andrew and Aaron's cousin, and he is something else, that's for sure.
Very much.
So let's jump into our favorite characters. I would say for this book specifically, David is my favorite character. But for the series in total, it has to be Andrew. Mostly because of just all the character development, mm-hmm. and it's the 5-foot anger issues for me. That's all I gotta say.
Right.
So, David, we talked about him a little bit. David's the coach. Every time he speaks, I'm like, I love this man.
Like, with tearing up.
the freaking fire tattoos and the wife beaters.
He's the best. I agree with that choice. I mean, seems like a great guy. He really cares about these kids that no one cares about.
Yeah.
And so automatically you're going to be like, wow, this guy's the best.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's not perfect either, and it kind of makes him more human, especially more relatable to all these misfits that are on his team. But
yeah. I will say, I might have answered that pretty quick, but it took me so long to figure out my favorite character, because all of the characters, except for Abby, all of the characters in this series, they're just so good. They're so well developed. They are perfectly planned, from the way that they look down to literally their backstory, their traits, like just everything about them. I just like, and we'll go by, you know, each one individually in a second, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of each one. They are all just so good. It took me so long, but every time David came up, I was just like, yes.
I just love, like, in this book, how different all the characters are. There's a character for everyone, no matter what kind of character you like, usually, in a story.
Mm-hmm.
I already know that my favorite character is going to change throughout the series, reading it, once I learn more about them, actually. They're all so developed already, and they barely gave us any information on them. Like, I feel like I can see the people, I know who they are, and they're all just so different, but they all are just, they play together, they fit in together.
Exactly. Yeah, they just fit so well together, too. Like, I cannot rave enough about how much, it's really the characters that keep drawing me into the story. It's like, honestly, it could have been the same exact characters with a completely different plot, and I would have loved it exactly the same. But yeah, who is your favorite character?
This one took me a lot of deliberation as well, because obviously you've also read the whole series, so it kind of make you think more about them. But for me, from the knowledge I have now, some of them are still a little too problematic for me to, even though I know I'm gonna like them eventually, I feel like my favorite character right now is Matt, because he is just the most, like, chill, reliable guy on the team, and I feel like the team really needs that.
Yeah.
And Neil really needs that, and he's, like, his roommate, kind of, they are in the same, like, dorm, and
they literally share the same bed.
That's true, okay. They're in bunk beds.
No.
No, they're in bunk beds. He's just, like, this big guy, he drives this truck, and he's just, like, always, like, trying to help people out. Like, he's like, oh, let me give you a ride. And he's, like, he just seems like a really cool guy that I hope nobody hurts in the future. But I'm sure they will, because that's what happens in this series. I feel like he's a chill guy. He's just brings, like, a level of calm that I feel like they all need, because a lot of the characters are super, like,
fight or flight.
Exactly.
A lot of the characters are, which makes sense for the way that they grow up. And yeah, Matt is very much like, he's the first to step in a fight. He's the first to ask you what's wrong type guy. And Matt was... It was between David and Matt. I just went with David.
I was between the two of them too, honestly. Yeah. They're both like the nice guys in the story, but they need those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you think, like, why is Matt even here? When you see, like, somebody like Andrew and compare it to Matt, you're like, whoa. But they, you know, you'll see more in later their backstory and stuff, so...
I can't wait to see, like, all of their backstories and see, like, look back at how they acted knowing their backstories, because, you know, some people can deal with things different ways, and depending on whatever their backstory was, like, if Matt's backstory is as tragic as Andrew's, then I'm gonna be like, how does he act like this?
Since we're speaking of the characters, I'm just gonna go kind of through the list really quick. So we already talked about Andrew, Aaron, Nikki, we got Kevin, Neil. We also have Allison, who is an upperclassman, and she is also something else.
In this book, they don't give a lot about her, really.
Yeah, it's more later on that you find out, but to be honest, there isn't a ton. I think Allison is the one that could have been developed a tiny bit more. So, like, her backstory, mostly, like, you find out in this book, she comes from a very rich family. They own a bunch of, like, resorts and stuff, and they kind of disown her because she chose Exie over running the family business. So she's very snobby to an extent. She's not awful, but she's well-dressed, well-manicured. She's, you know, cares about appearances a lot.
I don't care attitude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I chose to be here, but, like, I still don't really care about it. She doesn't care what anyone else is doing. She's kind of just doing her own thing most of the time.
Yeah. And then we also have Seth, who is Allison's on-again, off-again boyfriend.
Cranky.
He's very cranky.
Moody.
Very moody, yes. He's like Andrew anger, but kind of different because we didn't say this earlier, but Andrew's on this, like, medication that kind of makes him crazy. But that's a whole other thing that if we have time, we'll talk about later. But, yeah, so Seth is just very angry, and no one really likes him, to be honest. He's kind of there. He's a 5th-year senior. Like, he's just there because they kind of need him to. He kind of just, like,
picks fights with people on the team. Like, while they were on the court, even during their first game, him and Kevin were fighting, and I'm like, really? Like, get it together, dude. Yeah. You guys are on the same team, like...
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He was kind of, like, the driving force between them half the time. Like, they could barely work with him around. He made practice very difficult. Like, the second Andrew would walk out to go talk to his therapist, he would be on Kevin. Not in a good way. And
yeah. He just has some issues that aren't being addressed.
Exactly. And then we have Miss Dan. She is absolutely iconic. She's the captain of the Foxes. She is... I just love Dan, too. She's so good.
I love that she's the captain. I love that this team of all these crazy men has a female captain, and she really... They listen to her, too.
Yeah, she doesn't take no as for an answer. She will literally deck you if you if you try to say anything to her. She is...
She's kind of like the mom of the team.
Absolutely. She's the mom, Matt's the dad. Absolutely.
Pretty much.
And that's iconic.
Besides the coach.
Yeah.
He's a different
He's the
level.
Uncle.
Right.
Yeah, Matt and Dan are actually dating, so that's perfect. We also have, I think the last person's Renee. Probably one of the most interesting backgrounds, and she is someone that you would never, ever suspect to be on a team like this. She is... this little petite, soft-spoken girl.
Ray of sunshine. None of them mess with her. She, she's just, like, perfect, the sweetest. Everybody loves her. No one on the team has a problem with her. Or at least they don't say it, because everyone else will kill them.
Yeah. She's very wrapped in, like, her religion, too. She's Christian, and she kind of uses her faith as, like, a way to kind of stir her in the right direction. So I think that's kind of interesting because no one else really has a religion that they kind of speak about. So I think it's interesting to have a character in there that does kind of rely on her religion to kind of set her straight.
Especially because it seems like no one else on this team would be religious at all.
Yeah. And she's kind of the only other person that Andrew kind of interacts with on the team. He listens to Dan. He respects her because he knows that she has a hard time with this team, and he's gonna help in an extent that he's not gonna make it more difficult for her, because he doesn't.
But he won't make it less difficult.
No.
He'll just be like, I'll try to behave as much as I can. I won't help you with anyone else, though.
Mm-hmm. And then David, we talked about Wymack, the coach. We also have Betsy, who is the psychiatrist on campus. She has OCD, and she has these little glass figurines in her office, and they're so cute.
And drinks hot chocolate in the summer.
In the summer, yeah. And then we have Abby, but we don't care about her. She's just the nurse.
She's just trash.
I don't like Abby.
She's the team trash.
Yeah, she's something else, but in a bad way. So what would you say is your favorite relationship in this book?
So honestly, I had a really hard time trying to pick a favorite relationship because they're all very complicated and kind of toxic, I guess. Mm-hmm. Honorable mention is I like Matt and Dan are dating. I like that they're like the mom and dad of the team. I think that's cute, but you don't really see a lot of their relationship. It's kind of just like a group is hanging out and you like know they're dating, but they're just chilling. Mm-hmm. But the one that I picked is just because I want to see where it goes. And what really started it is I picked Renee and Andrew. Because showing, like, the little relationship that they had in the story was super... It showed a really different side of Andrew. You know, Andrew says he was going to ask Renee to the banquet that they were going to have, and he just seems, like, almost sweet to her, which is super weird for his character. And I just want to know how this relationship happened, but also people don't want them to talk to each other on the team. And I think it's because they think Andrew, you know, might hurt her or ruin her because she's so perfect. Mm-hmm. But I don't think she's worried about that at all. And, you know, she seems like she really cares about him and he cares about her. But I just want to see where that goes. Like, I already know they're not going to be, like, in a relationship. But I like the, like, little friendship between them. It just showed such a different side of Andrew that it was, like, a huge contrast. And you're like, he doesn't act like this to anyone else, not even Kevin.
Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting that you picked them, and I can't wait for you to see more of it. You have to kind of think of what Neil said. There's a reason that she's on the team, because they don't take anybody else that grew up in a quote-unquote normal family, like, dynamic. So, yeah, so she has to have her own kind of backstory to be on this team. And you will be shocked of, like, how similar that they are. They might be polar opposite, but they are very similar in some ways. So I chose David and Neil as my favorite relationship, especially at the beginning of the story, because this is like Neil and David are kind of the first interaction that we get of this team. And you see David kind of accept Neil and his own kind of trauma and makes the effort to work with him on it. He does whatever he can to make Neil comfortable, because Neil does stay at David's house for a couple weeks before they can move in. And I think it's just mostly a respect thing. And I know how hard that is for Neil because this is the first man of his dad's age that he's ever been around. And so it's really hard for him to not, like, flinch every time he raises his voice. And he does that a lot.
Definitely seeing that, like, interaction between them when he's staying with him was, like, super cool to see. Especially, like, you can see Neil, like, physically reacting to just David being in the room. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he was talking about how could I stay in this house and let this man lock the door every night with me in it? Mm-hmm. And, you know, he always plans the exits, but it just was, like, a really cool interaction, and David literally doesn't care. He's like, this kid's just sleeping on my couch, whatever. Yeah. But to see how much it affects Neil and how he, like, you know, works with it, gets over it, trusts David, really good development for him, and I feel like it happened a lot quicker than you would have expected.
Right. I think it's because he's accepting the change in a lot of ways. Like, he wants to stop running and he wants to have a life. So I feel like in his head, he's, instead of resisting, he's kind of taking it because that's what he wants. Mm-hmm. But yeah, David and Neil, they even get, like, more depth of their relationship, and I just love it so much. So
David is just, like, the best guy. Everybody who has trauma in their life, go see David.
Yeah, go see David.
He'll help you out. He'll give you your second, third, fourth chance. Whatever.
Whatever you need. So another thing I want to jump into is towards the end of the book, because a lot of the front of the book is kind of just setting up the plot. The end of the book, the last, 2 chapters, everything happens.
Right.
So, to kind of set up the scene for you guys, they have their first XC game. Did they win? I don't think they won.
No,
they did not win. They did not win. Shocker. Before they even got on the court that day, they had this show they had to go film the day after. It's like a morning type
talk show.
Talk show, yeah. Kevin gets on the stage. It's mostly just for Kevin, because he's the famous one.
That's what it was supposed to be for.
Yeah, that's all they really want to talk to is Kevin. But obviously almost the whole team goes, and obviously Andrew has to go. Pretty much Kevin's like, Neil, you have to go on. And here's Neil, trying to hide from his father. He's going on national television without his gear on. Because when he was on the court, it's different. You can't see anything. They have a full body, layers upon layers upon layers of armor. And now he's going on bare. So they go on, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. We'll do it really quick. Like, I don't want to be on there for more than 5 minutes. And so they're sitting on stage, and then all of a sudden, Rico comes out. Kevin has a panic attack because, this guy caused a lot of trauma for him.
Pretty much tried to end his career because he was jealous of him. And I can't imagine what other things went down between them that, nobody talked about. Kevin, he hasn't made an appearance on anything in, I believe it was 9 months or something. And he hasn't seen Rico since then either. So.
Right. So, and he had no idea that he was there. My favorite part was when Andrew is trying to get up to get over there to literally kill Rico. He would have killed him
on the stage, with the cameras rolling.
No regret. And I would let him.
I would have been like, yes, thank God, that's what he deserves.
Then Renee jumps in his lap. Matt's holding one hand down. David's holding the other one, something like that.
They're literally, everyone on the team is holding Andrew down in the audience.
A 5-foot man took 3 to 4 people to hold him down, if that tells you how strong that man is.
It's his willpower, really.
Yeah, it's literally just his willpower.
Yeah, but the second Rico walks on that stage, Andrew is like, oh, I have to kill him. Because obviously he knows who he is. He knows what he did to Kevin. And his goal in life is to protect Kevin, for right now, at least.
Neil and Kevin and Rico are on the show. They're talking. Kevin starts having a panic attack. And Rico's kind of just drilling into him and saying all these mean things, and that's when Neil snaps. He has anger issues too. He gets it from his father. He just says, okay, I will say Neil is an idiot, but he's so good at comebacks. Yeah. Later on, he just gets better and better.
He had some great lines. I mean, it was stupid. He should have never attacked this guy verbally, that he didn't recognize who he was, as far as I know. Rico's a part of this really powerful, mafia family. Neil knows this information. It's not like he didn't know and just did this, they told him after. He very clearly knows this and chooses to come at him because he's attacking someone that Neil cares about. Even if Neil wouldn't ever say it out loud, he cares about Kevin. And Kevin's sitting on the stage, he can't even speak. And so Neil's like, well, if he can't stand up for himself and Andrew would just come down here and kill him, I guess I gotta do something.
Right. Neil just roasts and embarrasses him and tells him the Foxes are gonna hit nationals, we're going to destroy you guys, all of these threats that you're saying, he's like, you're gonna choke on them. Oof, the first time I read it, I was like, shoot, Neil, you need to stop. And then they leave the show somehow alive.
Rico does not like that.
Does not like it. And he has connections. Basically, to kind of summarize it, the next day, Andrew's lot goes to Columbia, which is this place that they always go to hang out, release unstressed, all this stuff. And they're coming home from the club, and Aaron gets a call, and it's Coach. You find out at the very end of the book that Seth dies. F in the chat.
Rest in peace, my cranky king.
Cranky king. Obviously, it doesn't take very much to realize that this is connected to Rico. It's a good play because people know that Seth has been addicted to these drugs at the same time, and he uses them as chasers for his alcoholic drinks and all this stuff. And kind of like what Andrew said, is this is a threat, but Rico won't go any farther because he wants to play us, but we are already at the minimum number of
Which is
our
so
team.
sad to be like, yeah, Seth could die, but at least no one else will die because, otherwise then we can't play.
Right.
Like, that's such a crazy thing, but, like, for him, that's not even weird to say.
Well, Neil said he's been around to death so much that it doesn't affect him, even though he's lived with Seth for months, and he notices that Andrew's the same exact way. It doesn't affect him anyway. Nikki's literally throwing up outside.
The reactions to the phone call kind of give you a little bit of whiplash, honestly, is half the people in the car are experiencing it the way that most people would.
Right.
They're freaking out. They're like, well, what happened? What went on? And then, they're kind of making the connections. Andrew and Neil are just completely numb to the subject in general, that they just have absolutely no reaction to their team member literally dying.
Right. Kevin said it. He's like, how are we going to play when we're down a lineman? And then that's when Nikki's like, a man just died, Kevin.
Nikki and Aaron had a really, stronger reaction to it. Nikki was losing it.
Yeah, he was losing it. And he didn't like Seth at all.
No, he's just an emotional person.
Yeah, so Seth dies. I'm going to say it. I'm glad it wasn't anybody else.
I mean, of all the characters, probably the least important, but I'm sure that she made him that way because she probably planned on killing him off. Mm-hmm. That, you don't want to kill off a character in the first book, at least, that someone has a super strong connection to, because then they might not read the other books.
Right.
If it was Matt, I'm putting that book down.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I'm never touching book 2, because I'm going to be pissed. But nobody really likes Seth except, what's her name? Allison. I'm not excited to see how Allison takes it, though.
I think it'll be different than what you expect.
That's good.
I'll say that.
Because I don't want her to be over dramatic like Nikki was.
It was definitely a shocker because it was the last, couple pages, so you really don't know what's going to happen. And it's such a good cliffhanger because I'm like, well, what's going to happen next? What is the plan? I want to know.
When's the funeral? Yeah. I'll be there.
I won't be. So, what would you say, in your opinion, was some missed opportunities in this series?
Honestly, I don't even know. It's hard because I know this isn't the only book, and there's 2 others, so obviously I would want, more development on certain characters, but I know it's coming anyways, so I know they tried to explain the game a little while they were playing, but I had no clue what was happening.
Yeah.
Maybe, a little explanation on the sport itself.
There is actually, in the back of one of the books, there's a whole thing. It tells you every possible thing that you could know about it.
Perfect.
So they do have it. You just have to look into it.
I just read the audiobook, so they didn't read me that part.
Yeah, it is a lot, but it's basically lacrosse. It's literally the same thing.
I know how lacrosse works, so I understood the concept, but I'm like, who's winning? Honestly. Yeah. I mean, I figured they weren't winning because everyone said they were gonna lose.
You would know if they win, so it would be a different energy in that book.
Right. It's hard, because in that first game, Seth gets, really injured, too, and has to be taken off the field, and, you don't see him again until you hear he dies.
One time, before they go to...
Oh, when they come back from the show...
Yeah, and then they go out to the town.
Yeah, you see him, leave.
Allison's looking in his pocket for his drugs, which he doesn't have when he leaves, but somehow gets when he gets to the bar. So that's why it's very...
Right.
Obviously, it's pointing at Rico, so...
Right.
So I really like point of views. I like seeing different points of views. So this one's in Neil's point of view, third person. I would have really liked to see an Andrew point of view, or maybe just, flip against a couple people. Kind of like to see that, or maybe another book in Andrew's point of view, the entire series, his own series. I don't really care. I just want to see more.
I definitely think the entire first book would be very different if it was in Andrew's point of view, because obviously him and Neil both have a lot of trauma and have been through all this stuff and kind of see some things the same way, but they're very different people still, I feel like, and I don't know if I actually want to see how Andrew's brain works a little bit. It sounds really scary in there. I feel like maybe it's just clouds and butterflies and he's just angry on the outside.
I think it's more just like dead space and blackness.
Oh, just blank completely.
Just blank, yeah.
That makes sense. Is it the medication or is it just his brain?
You're gonna have to read and find out.
Perfect.
And the other thing I would say is I would like more content of like what happened after. But as I said before, she does have a Tumblr page, and she literally has paragraphs upon paragraphs of little like posts that she makes of people asking questions about the book. And she told about like Neil and Andrew's relationship and how they got like 2 cats and all this cute stuff. And there's just a bunch of stuff that she goes into more depth on, and let's just say it's good fanfic fuel for the fire,
right.
you know?
I think that that's really cool to have an author, you know, after the book having like something so like easy to access, like a Tumblr page where people can reach out to her specifically, rather than it's people asking all these questions and there's never an answer really, unless, you know, you see the author in an interview and they get asked the question. There's usually not that direct interaction between the reader and the author talking about what they wrote. So I think that's really cool that she does that and kind of, you know, talks to her fans. And even though she didn't want to write the book for anyone for some reason.
Yeah. And then, like, she doesn't have to have, like, a whole plot to make another book. She can kind of make it up as she goes if she wants to. And, like, that way she doesn't have to have the stress of trying to hit a deadline. She just can be like, yeah, they have 2 cats. And one of them's named Sir and the other one's named King. Sure, why not? Let's jump into our game. I hope you're ready. So the game that we're going to do, since there's so many characters, I want to see how many of them you remember. But you're going to go off of their position in the game.
Oh, God. So I remember like 2.
So I'm going to read off the names of the characters, and you're going to tell me if they are backliners, defensive dealers, goalkeepers, strikers, or the coach, the counselor, or the nurse.
Okay.
Some of them might be harder than you think. So first we have Aaron Minyard.
I don't remember him on the field or playing the game at all, but I'm gonna guess defensive dealer.
He is actually the backliner. Okay. Next we got Abby.
She is the nurse.
That is true. Yay!
Wow, 1 point.
We have Allison Reynolds.
I remember her playing the bench. She was playing the bench.
No.
We'll go offensive dealer for her.
Nope, she's defensive.
Dang it.
Okay, next.
She's a dealer either way.
Yeah. Next we got Andrew Minyard.
He's the goalie.
Okay, this is the easiest
I knew that.
one.
I panicked. I was thinking of Neil.
It's called goalkeeper, not goalie.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
This isn't lacrosse.
He is the goalkeeper.
Yes.
The gatekeeper.
Alright, next we got Betsy Dobson.
She's the psychiatrist for the team.
Yep. Alright, next we got Brian Seth Gordon.
Ew.
They just call him Seth. But I like saying Brian because it freaks her out.
Nobody told me in this book that his name was Brian until I came up to her after and was like, I can't believe they killed Seth. And she was like, what would you do if they said Brian instead? And I was like, who is that? Literally never once did they say Brian.
Yeah.
I get why he goes by Seth, though, because Brian doesn't fit his vibe.
Yeah.
I remember him playing because he got hurt. I'm going to say he was a striker.
Yeah. Strikers are usually the ones that get hurt.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Alright, Dan Wilds.
Dan is the captain, but also plays his position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the team can only have so many strikers, can't they? We'll say offensive dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive, not offensive.
Oh, offensive dealer, yep. David Wymack.
Okay, he's the coach.
Yep. Also, their personal cheerleader.
Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't seem that happy or cheering him on.
We got Kevin Day.
Kevin is a striker, I believe.
We got Matt Boyd.
I almost said who. Has gotta be a defensive dealer.
He's a backliner.
I forgot about that one. Yeah. Backliner. Is that all the big guys?
Pretty much.
No, Aaron does that.
Oh yeah, Aaron does that one.
They just ran out of big guys.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of options.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Renee Walker.
Renee is the other goalkeeper.
Yep. Neil Josten.
Neil's a striker, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the last one is Nikki.
I don't think Nikki was playing either.
Think about Nikki. What's one quality about him? We just talked about it.
He's gay. No! That's his main quality, though.
Okay, what's his other physical main quality?
Oh, he's tall, so he's a backliner.
He's tall, so he's a backliner. I don't think I got any points, to be honest.
I got a few.
Okay. Well, I'll give you half. I wasn't keeping track.
Okay, I appreciate it. 50%. So I still failed, but
all right.
I tried my best.
You tried your best. Another thing I want to talk about before we go is I also have this new segment I want to do is what are your predictions for the next part of the story? You can do complete endgame or you can do like what's going to happen in the next book.
I mean, I've heard you talk about this book a lot, but you don't ever say anything about like plot points that would like ruin anything. I have no clue what's really going to happen. Obviously, I know there's going to be a ton of character development, character like arcs. You see them all kind of develop, you know. I really want to see, like, the team develop, like, the team do well. And I really hope that happens, because, you know, they're bottom-tier team. And this team that Kevin used to be on, the Ravens, are coming into their division now. So they want to try to prove to them that they can be better. And I think Kevin can help them out a lot if he gets over himself a little bit. But I really want to see their team do well and kind of, you know, move up the ranks a little bit, and I'm sure that's gonna happen. That's like a main plot point in the book is that their team sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of the underdog story.
Right.
You have to see him kind of come out on top.
Right, which I really hope happens because I think it would be really cool to see how they react to winning and kind of feeling good about themselves. Like, we did this. I really want to see how the coach reacts to winning.
If he cries, I'm gonna lose it.
Me too. I'll be crying with him. Be like, my team, they did it.
Someone's gotta go down.
I mean, they better be good or I'm gonna be mad. I mean, they already lost their first game, so disappointing me. I'm sure there's gonna be some crazy stuff that happens. I already know that, you know, Neil and Andrew are kind of gonna be in a relationship, which I'm excited to see how that develops. I'm also kind of excited to see how Kevin takes that information, because I don't feel like he's gonna like it very much.
Right.
Or he will. Like, it's gonna be
Might
weird.
Be too into it.
Yeah, and then everyone's gonna be uncomfortable. Because Andrew just, like, is always with Kevin. He's always protecting him. He's watching over him. He's right next to him. Mm-hmm. So, to have that, like, not happening and have him kind of do that probably for Neil instead, I feel like Kevin's gonna be jealous. Even though I don't think Kevin swings that way. But I don't really know.
So my question is, since Andrew and Kevin are that way and they share a dorm together, do they sleep in the same bed?
I feel like they do.
He's small enough. He's 5 foot on the dot, if you don't remember.
But Kevin's big, though.
Exactly. So it's like jetpack.
He probably sleeps on Kevin. So if anyone tried to stab Kevin, they'd stab Andrew instead.
And then Andrew can stab Kevin because he's going with him.
He protects all of his vital organs with his own body while he's sleeping. But he's like on his back, so he can see if anyone's coming in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Andrew seems like the type to sleep with his eyes open.
I don't think he sleeps.
That too. I think that's kind of it. Do you have any other talking points?
I got it all.
The last thing we do kind of like our own rating scale here on the podcast. We kind of make up our own. So I can go first if you want.
Go right ahead.
All right. So I would give the Foxhole Court 10 foxes out of, well, I guess 9 now.
Oh. Why you gotta do my man Seth like that? I'm gonna get a tattoo in remembrance of Seth. It's gonna say 10 out of 9.
10 out of 9.
Man, that was sad. That was kind of mean, but I liked it still. I would give this... I feel like if I rate it under a 10, you're gonna punch me. But I have to do
rate
like...
it as you will.
I have to do like a 9.5 out of 10 safe spot from like a Rite Aid.
What?
His safe that he bought.
Oh, safe. Oh, okay.
Because Neil doesn't trust anyone, and the first time he put his stuff there, because he always carried his stuff with him, he put his stuff in the drawer. Andrew went through it. I don't know how he didn't tell anyone about that either. So then he went to, like, the Rite Aid and bought a safe and carried it all the way home because he wouldn't let Matt give him a ride. Because he's stubborn.
Trust issues, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you're on the run.
The run.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Great to be back.
Not that I had a choice.
Nope, you did not.
Just kidding.
But yeah, it's good to be back. So.
This was supposed to be Jen's birthday episode because this is her favorite book ever.
Mm-hmm. But
sadly, things happen. People get COVID. Seth overdoses. You know, you never know. Life's unpredictable.
Yep. So, you're gonna be back in June, right? Pride Month.
Yes, for Pride Month.
For Pride Month, yep. So make sure you come back for that. And yeah, thank you.
I don't think you've ever looked me in the eye and said thank you for anything before. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for turning the pages with us this week. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support on social media. Don't forget to turn on your notifications to get a reminder of the next episode. Thanks again for listening to The Book Stop. Bye!